I was once a teenage boy. I know you wouldn't believe that, but before I became an old man, I was a teenage boy. And let me tell you something that I know for a fact about boys. And it doesn't matter if they're, quote, teenaged yet, or they're tweenagers, or they're younger than that. When they get something fascinating on their brain, like, say, sex, they don't think about anything else. I didn't think about anything else. In fact, it took many years into my adulthood before I was able to think clearly on other things. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I want to tell you, without a doubt, the mind matters. What you put into your mind matters. It makes a decision for you on a lot of things. Now, I talk here about leadership, and when it comes to leadership, you've heard me say over and over, the story that you're telling inside your head is the one that's really defining the who that you are. What you say to yourself about yourself, what you say to yourself about the industry you work in, what you say to yourself about the things that you're thinking about, that controls the quality of your life. And the things that you spend time focusing your mind on, focusing your energy on, they will determine the quality of your life. Let's say, for an example, you've heard me say this before, I grew up with the mindset that the rich get rich and the poor go broke, and it's the rich's fault. As a result of that mindset, that way of thinking, that constant thought in the back of my mind, I sabotaged my own success even when I worked in a company where it wasn't uncommon to earn over 6 figures. That mindset, that thinking that the rich get rich, the poor go broke, caused me to think, well, why would I want to be rich? Then my family's going to hate me. I don't want to be the one that everyone despises. And that subconscious thought sabotaged my future. I can also tell you that as a young man, I was molested at 9 years old, and thoughts began to run in my head about what sexuality was. I looked for every expression of it, every opportunity of it, every engagement of it. And it really corrupted my thinking. Now, it's one thing to say a teenage boy driven by hormones exposed to a movie or a magazine and his thoughts stay there. Every teenage boy that I've ever met is fascinated, generally with the opposite sex, not always with the opposite sex, but genuinely fascinated with sexuality. They want to look at and think about and talk and touch because that's the most important thing on their brain at that time. And sometimes to the detriment of their education, sometimes to the detriment of their job, sometimes to the detriment of their freedom. But once that process has started, unless there's an equally powerful fascination with something else, I can tell you that sex on the brain is a powerful thing. It destroys marriages. It destroys careers. Ask Matt Lauer. Ask Bill O'Reilly. Ask however many other people have lost high-powered, powerful national positions because the sex in their brain couldn't be turned off. It drove their behavior. It drove their decisions. It drove their relationships into the ground. And then ask yourself this question. Why in the world do people insist on launching that kind of thought process for fourth graders and younger? With photographs and drawings or illustrations that are so graphically inclined that they pique the curiosity when these young people, and I say young people, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade, 5 to 10 years old, they can't decide if broccoli is a good thing or if they should only eat chocolate all day. That's why parents must take good care of them and look out for their decision making. And yet, our public school system and some other, in my opinion, nefarious forces are removing the right for the parent to speak into that thought process. They don't even have the right to tell them, please don't show illustrated drawings of naked people doing unspeakable acts to my 5-year-old or my 10-year-old or my 12-year-old. Please let them at least become adults and focus on what they're doing as kids, playing with frisbees and going to football games and enjoying a soccer game or a tennis match. Let them be children for a minute before we launch them into this world where everything is obsessed with sexuality. It really concerns me that from our legislature to our school boards, we have some elected officials and some unelected officials who have taken it upon themselves to decide what our children should be focusing their thoughts upon. That bugs me. I know the power of thought. I teach the power of thought. And in the course of teaching leadership, I help people understand that just one minor change in what you think and what you think about, you can destroy or rebuild your future. I don't know about you, but I'm really not happy with the idea that my grandchildren, because my children are grown now, they're in their 20s and up, but my grandchildren are being exposed to the kinds of imagery and thoughts about sexuality that I believe are destructive. I spent 25 years addicted to that stuff. I've spent 15 years since then fighting back against it, not only in my own mind, but in the minds of the people that I care about and the minds of the people that I serve. And it's absolutely infuriating to think the course that my life followed, being exposed to sexuality at 9 years old, is now beginning across the country intentionally for 5 to 10-year-olds, and the parents don't have a right to opt out. That's a problem, my friends. And as a leader, I refuse to stand idly by and watch it happen. Now, I'm going to guess that this video is probably going to be flagged by Facebook for being an inappropriate video. So if you're watching it live right now, hit the share button as fast as you can and share it with other people just to raise a little bit of awareness. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of videos out there on social media talking about this very issue, giving you instructions, lining out in Minnesota and California the specific laws and bills that have already been passed and they're already impacting your kids. That's not my role here. My role here is to say you need to think about what your children are thinking about, because your mind matters. If you find that this video has been removed from social media, go back to my website, jlorennorris.com, click on the podcast button or go to jlorennorris.com/podcast and search The Mind Matters. That will be the title of this video. And if you find The Mind Matters, you can share it from the website as many times as you like to, even download it from there. I really challenge you as parents, as leaders, as business owners, as community leaders. Don't sit idly by while the minds of our children are stolen from them and filled with what will have a hard time competing with any good common sense. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.